Hello everyone, welcome to Module 34 on stress, health, and happiness. We're going to first talk about what we do to cope with stress, because that has a lot to do with our health. And what two ways do people usually try to alleviate stress in their lives? The first is through coping, which is defined as reducing stress using emotional, cognitive, or behavioral methods. There are two types of coping. One is problem-focused coping, attempting to reduce stress directly by changing the stressor or the way we interact with that stressor. The second is emotion-focused coping, which is attempting to reduce stress by avoiding or ignoring a stressor and attending to emotional needs related to our stress reaction. How does a perceived lack of control affect our health? In humans and other animals, uncontrollable threats trigger the strongest stress responses. In animal studies, Laudenslager and Wright conducted rat studies, as well as Seligman and his colleagues conducted studies on dogs, and they determined that there is a concept called learned helplessness. This hopelessness and passive resignation an animal or person learns when they're unable to avoid repeated aversive offense. So what the person would say is, well, this is just going to happen to me, and there's nothing that I can do, and therefore I'm helpless. In human studies, Roden and O'Neill looked at two different environments, the nursing home resident study and a worksite environmental study. Increasing our control noticeably improves our health and morale. So when we perceive we have a sense of control over stressful events in our lives, we tend to have higher health and higher levels of morale. On this chart, we can look at learned helplessness in more detail. We look at uncontrollable bad events that may happen to a person. The person has a perceived lack of control over those events, and they result in a generalized sense of helpless behavior that the person just does not have control to try to cope or react to those events. So when we talk about personal control, why does our perceived loss of such control predict health problems? Losing control produces an outpouring of stress hormones. So when we think we don't have control, those hormone levels increase dramatically. When rats cannot control shock, or when humans or other primates feel unable to control their environment, the result is rising stress hormones. This in turn increases our blood pressure levels, and this in turn drops our immune responses. If we boost our feelings of control, people often lead happier and healthier lives. There are two types to look at locus of control, and locus is a Latin word for place. Internal versus external. If we're experiencing a loss of control that can be stressful and unhealthy, do people who generally perceive they have control of their lives enjoy better health? If you have an external locus of control, you believe that chance or outside forces control their fate. If you have an internal locus of control, you believe that you control your own destiny. Studies show that people who believe in their freedom learn better, perform better at work, behave more helpfully, and have a stronger desire to punish rule breakers. How can our self-control be depleted, and why is it important to build this strength? Depleting and strengthening self-control. Self-control is the ability to control our impulses and delay short-term gratification for greater long-term rewards. Exercising willpower temporarily depletes the mental energy needed for self-control on other tasks. But the long-term effect of exercising self-control is strengthened self-control, much as hard physical workouts leave you temporarily tired but stronger in the long term. And self-control requires attention and energy, but it predicts good adjustment, better grades, and social success. How does an optimistic outlook affect our health and longevity? Pessimists expect things to go badly. They blame themselves, others, or situations beyond their control. Optimists expect to have control, work well under stress, and enjoy good health. They enjoy better moods, stronger immune systems, quicker recovery times, longer lives, and better well-being and success overall. Optimism runs in families. One genetic marker is a gene that enhances the social bonding hormone of oxytocin. Even the most pessimistic of us can learn to become more optimistic. In one such study, pessimists reported lower levels of depression. If we look at pessimism, we could generalize that they have an external locus of control, that everything else outside of them is causing stress. And optimists have an internal locus of control where they expect to have control and know that they can determine what their outcome is. How does social support promote good health? Social support itself creates health benefits. It calms us and reduces blood pressure and stress hormones. It fights illness by fostering stronger immune functioning. And close relationships give us an opportunity for open heart therapy, a chance to confide painful feelings. Reducing stress. Having a sense of control, developing more optimistic thinking, and building social support can help us experience less stress and thus improve our health. But sometimes we cannot alleviate stress and simply need to manage our stress. Aerobic exercise, relaxation, meditation, and active spiritual engagement may help us gather inner strength and lessen stress effects. Based on what we've learned so far, can you guess why that might be? How effective is aerobic exercise as a way to manage stress and improve well-being? Aerobic exercise, sustained activity that increases heart and lung fitness, may also reduce depression and anxiety. It increases the quality and quantity of life 2 additional years on average, and it's a boost in quality of life seen in increased energy, better mood, and stronger relationships. Aerobic exercise and depression. Mildly depressed college women who participated in an aerobic exercise program showed markedly reduced depression compared with those who did relaxation exercises or received no treatment. If you look at the chart on this slide, you will see 3 groups. The no treatment group, which is the control group, did not have any difference in depression score. The relaxation treatment group started off with a higher depression score and did reduce their depression. The aerobic exercise group started with a slightly lower depression score. However, the dramatic difference is their depression scores were far lower than the no treatment group or the relaxation treatment group. In what ways might relaxation and meditation influence stress and health? Much of the research done that was starting in the late 1960s focused on biofeedback. It is now thought to have limited effect, working best on tension headaches. More than 60 studies have found that relaxation procedures can help alleviate headaches, high blood pressure, anxiety, and insomnia. Relaxation training has been used to help type A heart attack survivors reduce the risk of future heart attacks. One of my favorite strategies is mindfulness meditation. This is relaxing and silently attending to your inner state without judging it. It can strengthen connections among regions in the brain. It activates brain regions associated with more reflexive awareness, and it calms brain activation in emotional situations. So faith, communities, and health. What is the faith factor, and what are some possibilities or possible explanations of the link between faith and health? The faith factor is defined as religiously active people who tend to live longer than those who are not religiously active. This is correlational, not cause and effect. However, the research does indicate that religious involvement, like non-smoking and exercise, is a predictor of health and longevity. Possible explanations may include the effect of intervening variables such as the healthy behaviors, social support, or positive emotions often found among people who regularly attend religious services. If we look at this diagram, we can see religious involvement on the left, and you can see that there are 3 major areas that are thought to occur because of religious involvement, and that's healthy behaviors, such as less smoking and drinking, a sense of social support through faith communities and marriage, and positive emotions of hope, optimism, coherence, less stress and anxiety, and this results in better health, such as less immune system suppression and fewer stress hormones and greater longevity. In some cases, one of the benefits of religious involvement or any particular faith or spirituality is a release of control and a release of stress on the person to think that they are the person who has to solve everything on their own. What is the feel-good, do-good phenomenon, and what is the focus of positive psychology research? Positive psychology is one of the newest areas in psychology developed by Martin Seligman, and he looked at psychology and he decided that while we focus a lot on treating disorders and helping individuals return to a normal sense of function, he said, why can't we take psychology and have them exceed a normal sense of functioning? So in positive psychology, people aspire to happiness because our state of happiness or unhappiness influence all facets of our life. Feel good, do good phenomenon, people's tendency to be helpful when they're already in a good mood, and doing good also promotes the good feeling, the do good, feel good phenomenon. Happiness research stems from William James' writings in the early 20th century through to the humanistic psychologists interested in advancing human fulfillment in the 1960s. In the 21st century, positive psychologists under the leadership of Martin Seligman have used scientific methods to study human flourishing. We talk about subjective well-being, our self-perceived happiness or satisfaction with life. This is used along with measures of objective well-being, for example, physical and economic indicators, to evaluate people's quality. Positive psychology is defined as the scientific study of human functioning with the goals of discovering and promoting strengths and virtues that help individuals and communities to thrive. The three pillars of positive psychology include positive well-being, positive character, positive for groups, communities, and culture. How do time, wealth, adaptation, and comparison affect our happiness levels? The short life of our emotional ups and downs. Emotional ups and downs tend to balance out. Moods typically rebound. Friday and Saturday are typically the most positive mood days. Early morning to midday are the most positive times of day, and usually even tragedy is not permanently depressing. The surprising reality, the duration of emotions is overestimated. Resiliency and adaptability are underestimated. Wealth and well-being. Wealth does correlate with well-being in some ways, such as having resources to meet basic needs and maintain some control over life does buy happiness. Increasing wealth matters less once basic needs are met, and economic growth in affluent countries provides no apparent morale or social well-being boost. Happiness is relative, adaptation, and comparison. Our emotions seem like elastic bands that pull us back from highs and lows. Happiness is relative to our own experiences, the adaptation level phenomenon, and to other success, the relative deprivation principle. Feelings of satisfaction and dissatisfaction, success and failure are judgments we make based partly on our prior experience. Comparing ourselves with those who are better off creates envy, but counting our blessings as we compare ourselves with those worse off boosts our contentment. If we look at this slide, we can look at adaptation level phenomenon and relative deprivation. Adaptation level phenomenon is the tendency to form judgments of sounds, of lights, of income, relative to a neutral level defined by our prior experience. Partly influences our feelings of satisfaction and dissatisfaction, success and failure. In some cases, if we think this is the net neutral or average level, we will form judgments based on that level, saying if everyone in our neighborhood has almost the same type of house, but we notice one person has added on to their house and they have a 3 or 4 car garage versus a 1 or 2 car garage, we may actually feel less satisfied or have a lower sense of success based on that. The perception that one is worse off relative to those with one whom compares oneself. Satisfaction may come when one feels better off than their peers, and it's also related to adaptation level phenomenon. Again, we may perceive that we're worse off compared to others, but in reality we typically don't really know. It's a perception, typically not rooted in any type of hard data. What are some predictors of happiness, and how can we be happier? Happiness levels are a product of the nature-nurture interaction. In twin studies, about 50% of happiness rating differences among people seems to be heritable, that is, it's attributable to our genes. There's also personal history. The emotions balance around a level defined by experience, a happiness set point. And culture, there is a diversity in the value groups place on various traits. For example, social acceptance and harmony in collectivist cultures, and self-esteem and achievement in individualist cultures. Individual happiness may influence national well-being. So what predicts our happiness levels? Happiness is, researchers have found that happy people tend to have higher self-esteem in individualist countries, be optimistic, outgoing, and agreeable, have close friendships or a satisfying marriage, have work and leisure that engage their skills, have an active religious faith, especially in more religious cultures, and sleep well and exercise. However, happiness seems not much related to other factors such as age, gender. Women are often more depressed, but also more often joyful, and physical attractiveness. There are evidence-based strategies that we can use for a happier life. 11 research-based suggestions for improving your mood and increasing your satisfaction with life. Number 1, realize that enduring happiness may not come from financial success. Number 2, take control of your time. Number 3, act happy. 4, seek work and leisure that engage your skills. 5, buy shared experiences rather than things. 6, join the movement. That means to get up and move and avoid being sedentary. Number 7 is to give your body the sleep it wants and needs. 8, give priority to close relationships. 9, focus beyond yourself. And 10, count your blessings and record your gratitude. And finally, number 11, nurture your spiritual self. That brings us to the end of Module 34. There's a lot of content in this module, but I think it's really key information that you may want to review and do some self-reflection on in depth, especially when you complete Journal 4.